Imagine a world where power is absolute and betrayal is a daily occurrence. Welcome to the story of the Abergil crime family. From the dusty streets of Casablanca to the gritty underbelly of Israel's criminal underworld, the Abergils carved out an empire built on ambition, violence, and an insatiable hunger for power. Join us as we unravel the tale of Yakov Abergil and his brothers, whose rise and fall would shake the foundations of organized crime and leave an indelible mark on history. This introduction sets the tone for the video, immediately grabbing the viewer's attention with a dramatic opening line. It then introduces the main subjects, the Abergil crime family, and hints at their journey from humble beginnings to the heights of criminal power. The mention of their eventual downfall creates intrigue and promises a compelling story arc, encouraging viewers to keep watching. The Abergil family's journey began in the dusty streets of Casablanca, Morocco, where they had eked out a meager existence for generations. Yakov Abergil, the eldest of three brothers, was born in 1969 to Shlomo and Esther, a pair of Jewish immigrants struggling to make ends meet. From an early age, Yakov witnessed the daily hardships that plagued his family, the constant search for work, the scrimping and saving to put food on the table, and the ever-present sense of uncertainty that hung over their lives. As a child, Yakov observed his father, a former soldier in the Moroccan army, trying in vain to provide for his family. Shlomo's dreams of a better life had brought them to this bustling city, but the reality was far from the promise of opportunity that had lured them across the sea. The Abergils were just one among countless families fighting to survive in the crowded, impoverished neighborhoods of Casablanca, their aspirations for a brighter future fading with each passing day. It was in this environment that Yakov and his younger brothers, Avi and Meir, came of age. The three boys, bound by an unbreakable fraternal bond, quickly learned that the only way to get ahead was to take matters into their own hands. Petty theft, street hustling, and occasional run-ins with the local authorities became a way of life, a means to supplement their family's meager income and stave off the specter of hunger and destitution. As the years passed, Yakov emerged as the de facto leader of the trio, his sharp intellect and unwavering determination setting him apart from his siblings. While Avi and Meir were content with the occasional score, Yakov harbored grander ambitions, sensing that their future lay beyond the confines of Casablanca. He recognized that the only path to a better life was through the acquisition of power, a lesson he would soon put into practice. In 1985, the Abergil family's fortunes took an unexpected turn when Shlomo, in a desperate bid to secure a better future for his sons, made the decision to uproot the family and immigrate to Israel. The promise of a thriving economy and a more stable political climate lured the family across the Mediterranean, their hearts filled with the hope of a fresh start. The transition, however, was anything but smooth. The Abergils found themselves thrust into a society that was vastly different from the one they had left behind. The bustling streets of Tel Aviv and the arid landscape of Ramla, their new home, presented a culture shock that the family struggled to overcome. Shlomo's limited Hebrew and the family's lack of connections made finding steady employment a constant challenge, and the specter of poverty once again loomed large over their lives. As the Abergil brothers navigated this new and unfamiliar world, the lure of the criminal underworld proved too tempting to resist. Yakov, now a teenager, quickly established a reputation for his cunning and his willingness to do whatever it took to survive. His involvement in petty crimes, from pickpocketing to small-scale drug dealing, laid the foundation for a future that would ultimately transform the Abergil family into one of the most notorious crime syndicates in Israel's history. It was during this formative period that Yakov's path would cross with that of Shalom Domrani, a seasoned criminal who would become a mentor and a key figure in the Abergil family's rise to power. Domrani, impressed by the young Yakov's ambition and street smarts, took the teenager under his wing, imparting the lessons and connections that would shape the Abergil family's ascent in the years to come. As Yakov's criminal exploits began to garner attention, both from the authorities and from rival gangs, the Abergil brothers found themselves caught in a web of violence and retaliation. Their struggle to adapt to their new homeland had taken an unexpected turn, leading them down a path that would ultimately test the limits of their loyalty and their moral compass. The story of the Abergil family had only just begun, a tale that would unfold against the backdrop of Israel's turbulent history and the ever-shifting landscape of organized crime. From the humble beginnings in Casablanca to the gritty streets of Ramla, the Abergils were poised to embark on a journey that would leave an indelible mark on the criminal underworld, a journey that would test the limits of their ambition and their willingness to sacrifice everything for the pursuit of power. The streets of Ramla, a gritty city in the heart of Israel, were Yakov Abergil's domain. As the youngest of the three Abergil brothers, Yakov had always been the most ambitious, driven by a relentless desire to elevate his family's status and secure their future. While his older siblings, Avi and Mir, were content with petty theft and small-time scams, Yakov possessed a hunger for something more, a thirst for power and influence that would shape the trajectory of his life. It was during his first stint in prison, at the age of 19, that Yakov's transformation truly began. Incarcerated for a murder he had committed in a fit of rage, Yakov found himself surrounded by the seasoned criminals of the Israeli underworld. Rather than being cowed by his circumstances, he embraced the opportunity to learn from the best, to hone his skills and sharpen his instincts. One of the most influential figures in Yakov's life during this time was Shalom Domrani, a notorious crime boss with a reputation for ruthlessness and strategic brilliance. Domrani, recognizing the raw potential in the young Abergil, took him under his wing, imparting the lessons that would forever alter Yakov's path. Yakov was a sponge, soaking up everything I taught him, Domrani would later recall. He had a natural talent for this life, the cunning, the aggression, the ability to make the tough decisions. I knew he was destined for greatness, even if he didn't realize it himself. Under Domrani's tutelage, Yakov learned the intricacies of organized crime, the art of building alliances, the importance of maintaining a reputation for violence, and the necessity of diversifying one's criminal portfolio. He studied the tactics of the most successful syndicates, absorbing their strategies and adapting them to suit his own ambitions. Upon his release from prison in 1992, Yakov returned to Ramla with a renewed sense of purpose. Reuniting with his brothers, he wasted no time in putting his newfound knowledge into practice. The Abergil family's initial forays into the world of organized crime were modest, involving small-scale drug dealing and extortion rackets. But Yakov's leadership and strategic vision quickly propelled them to new heights. Avi and Meir, initially skeptical of their younger brother's grand plans, soon found themselves swept up in the momentum. Yakov's charisma and unwavering determination were infectious, and the brothers became a formidable team, each contributing their unique skills to the family's growing criminal empire. One of the Abergil family's earliest and most lucrative ventures was their involvement in the local drug trade. Leveraging their connections within the prison system and their willingness to resort to violence, they carved out a significant niche in the distribution of hashish and cocaine. Yakov's ability to negotiate with suppliers, manage logistics, and maintain a tight grip on their territory quickly earned them a reputation as ruthless and efficient operators. As their profits grew, so did their ambition. The Abergils began to set their sights beyond the borders of Ramla, establishing connections with criminal organizations in neighboring cities. They forged alliances with the Abutbul and Rosenstein families, two of the most powerful crime syndicates in Israel, in an effort to expand their reach and diversify their operations. However, these partnerships were not without their challenges. The Abergils' aggressive expansion and unwillingness to compromise soon brought them into conflict with their newfound allies. Turf wars erupted, with the Abergils engaging in a series of violent confrontations that left a trail of bloodshed in their wake. They were like a pack of wolves, always hungry for more, recalled a former associate who spoke on the condition of anonymity. The Abergils didn't care who they had to step on to get what they wanted. They were willing to do whatever it took to come out on top. Despite the risks, Yakov remained undeterred. He recognized that the path to true power and influence lay in the international arena, where the rewards were greater and the competition more fierce. It was this ambition that would ultimately lead the Abergil family down a perilous road, one that would test the limits of their criminal acumen and the strength of their family bonds. The Abergil family's rise to power was fueled by their insatiable ambition and a willingness to take calculated risks. With Yakov Abergil at the helm, the brothers embarked on a bold expansion of their criminal operations, forging strategic alliances that would propel them onto the international stage. In the late 1990s, the Abergils had solidified their dominance within the Israeli underworld, controlling a vast network of drug trafficking, extortion, and money laundering activities. However, Yakov recognized that true power and wealth lay beyond the borders of their homeland. It was time to take their enterprise global. Yakov's first major move was to establish a partnership with a powerful Peruvian drug cartel. Utilizing their connections in the Israeli criminal world, the Abergils negotiated a lucrative deal to smuggle cocaine into Europe. Avi and Mir were tasked with overseeing the logistics of this new operation, leveraging their expertise in transportation and distribution. The brothers devised a sophisticated system of concealment, hiding the cocaine within shipments of household goods and machinery. Plush toys became a particular favorite, as the drug-filled stuffed animals could easily slip past customs inspections. Yakov's meticulous planning and his ability to anticipate law enforcement's tactics ensured that the Abergil family's cocaine pipeline remained uninterrupted for several years. As their profits soared, the Abergils set their sights on the United States, a market they had long coveted. Yakov knew that the key to success lay in forging alliances with established criminal organizations already operating in the country. After careful consideration, he decided to partner with the Vineland Boys, a notorious gang based in Los Angeles. The collaboration between the Abergils and the Vineland Boys proved to be a highly lucrative venture. Leveraging the Vineland Boys' extensive distribution network and street-level connections, the Abergils began smuggling massive quantities of ecstasy pills into the United States. Once again, their innovative smuggling methods which included hiding the drugs in children's toys and household appliances, allowed them to evade detection. The influx of high-quality ecstasy pills, coupled with the Vineland boys' aggressive marketing tactics, quickly made the Abergil-Vineland partnership a dominant force in the American drug trade. Yakov and his brothers reveled in their success, basking in the wealth and power that their criminal empire had brought them. However, the Abergils' ambition knew no bounds, and they soon set their sights on an even more ambitious goal: establishing a direct pipeline between Israel and the United States for their drug trafficking operations. This move would eliminate the need for intermediaries and allow them to reap an even greater share of the profits. To achieve this, Yakov orchestrated a series of meetings with high-level members of the Peruvian cartel, negotiating a deal that would allow the Abergils to bypass their existing European distribution channels and ship drugs directly to the United States. The plan was audacious, but Yakov was confident in his ability to pull it off. The Abergils' direct pipeline to the United States proved to be a resounding success. Utilizing their connections in the Israeli port city of Ashdod, they were able to smuggle massive quantities of cocaine and ecstasy into the country, bypassing the scrutiny of law enforcement. The profits from these operations were staggering, and the Abergil family's wealth and influence continued to grow. As the Abergils' criminal empire expanded, so too did their reputation for ruthlessness and violence. Their ongoing feud with the Rosenstein crime family had escalated into a bloody turf war, with both sides engaging in a series of tit-for-tat attacks. The 2003 bombing in Tel Aviv, which claimed the lives of several innocent bystanders, was a particularly devastating blow that brought the Abergils' activities into the public spotlight. Despite the increased scrutiny from law enforcement, the Abergils remained undaunted. Yakov's strategic mind and his ability to adapt to changing circumstances allowed the family to maintain their dominance in the underworld. Their global reach, innovative smuggling techniques, and willingness to use violence when necessary had transformed them into one of the most formidable criminal organizations in the world. Yet, as the Abergils' power continued to grow, so too did the risks they faced. The family's relentless pursuit of wealth and influence had come at a heavy price, and the consequences of their actions were about to catch up with them. The streets of Ramla had long been a battleground for the city's warring crime families, but the rivalry between the Abergil clan and the Rosenstein syndicate had reached a fever pitch. Yakov Abergil had spent years cultivating his organization's power, forging alliances and eliminating threats, but Zeev Rosenstein refused to cede his territory without a fight. The tension came to a head in the summer of 2003, when a powerful bomb ripped through a crowded cafe in the heart of Tel Aviv. The blast claimed the lives of 8 innocent bystanders and left dozens more injured, shocking the nation and drawing the attention of law enforcement agencies across Israel. In the aftermath, suspicion immediately fell on the Abergil family. Their reputation for ruthlessness and their ongoing feud with the Rosensteins made them the prime suspects. Yakov, Avi, and Meir were brought in for questioning, but their lawyers were quick to deny any involvement, painting the brothers as victims of a smear campaign. However, the investigation soon uncovered a web of connections that led straight back to the Abergils. Forensic evidence, wiretaps, and informant testimony painted a damning picture of the family's involvement in the bombing and their broader criminal activities. The Abergils thought they were untouchable, said Detective Avi Cohen, who led the investigation. They had built this empire of fear, but we were determined to bring them down, no matter the cost. The bombing had been a calculated move by Yakov to eliminate his rival, Zeev Rosenstein, who had been encroaching on the Abergil family's drug trafficking routes. But the collateral damage was catastrophic, sparking outrage across Israel and drawing the attention of international law enforcement agencies. It was a turning point for us, Yakov later admitted during his trial. We had always been careful to avoid civilian casualties, but the Rosenstein family was becoming a real threat. I made the decision to take them out, and I regret the innocent lives that were lost. As the investigation deepened, the Abergil family's web of criminal connections began to unravel. Detectives uncovered evidence of their involvement in drug trafficking, money laundering, and extortion, painting a picture of a sophisticated and ruthless organization that had infiltrated the highest levels of Israeli society. The Abergils' alliance with the Peruvian drug cartel and their collaboration with the Vineland Boys gang in Los Angeles came to light, revealing the true scale of their international operations. Investigators were stunned by the family's audacity, using creative smuggling techniques like hiding narcotics in plush toys to evade detection. They were playing a dangerous game, and they thought they could get away with it, said Cohen. But we were determined to bring them down, no matter how powerful they thought they were. The bombing and the subsequent investigation had a profound impact on the Abergil family. Yakov, Avi, and Meir found themselves at the center of a media firestorm, their faces plastered across the news as the public demanded justice. It was a nightmare, recalled Avi Abergil. We had always operated in the shadows, but now we were thrust into the spotlight, and it was terrifying. We knew that our days of unchecked power were over. The legal battles that followed were grueling, with the Abergils' lawyers fighting tooth and nail to protect their clients. But the weight of the evidence was overwhelming, and one by one, the family members were convicted on a range of charges, from murder and racketeering to money laundering and drug trafficking. As Yakov, Avi, and Meir were sentenced to lengthy prison terms, the Abergil family's reign over the Israeli underworld came to a dramatic end. The once feared crime syndicate had been brought down by its own hubris and the relentless pursuit of law enforcement. In the aftermath, the community grappled with the devastating consequences of the Abergils' actions. The bombing had shattered lives and eroded trust in the government's ability to keep its citizens safe. The family's legacy would forever be tainted by the blood they had spilled in their quest for power and wealth. As Yakov sat in his prison cell, contemplating the downfall of his empire, he couldn't help but wonder if it had all been worth it. The price of violence had been far higher than he had ever imagined, and the Abergil name would forever be synonymous with the tragedy that had unfolded in the streets of Ramla and Tel Aviv. The walls of the courtroom were thick with tension as Yakov Abergil, the once feared crime lord, sat hunched in the defendant's chair. His piercing gaze scanned the room, searching for familiar faces among the sea of prosecutors, detectives, and journalists. The charges against him were numerous and severe: racketeering, drug trafficking, money laundering, and the list went on. Yakov's brothers, Avi and Meir, flanked him, their expressions a mix of defiance and resignation. They had all been caught in the web of Operation 512, a joint investigation between American and Israeli authorities that had finally unraveled the Abergil family's sprawling criminal empire. As the trial progressed, the court was inundated with a torrent of damning evidence. Wiretaps, surveillance footage, and the testimony of former associates painted a vivid picture of the Abergil's ruthless modus operandi. The jurors listened in rapt attention as the prosecutors meticulously laid out the family's involvement in the international drug trade, their intricate money laundering schemes, and the violent clashes with rival gangs. Yakov's once intimidating presence had been reduced to a shadow of its former self. Gone was the swagger and the air of invincibility that had once commanded the respect and fear of the Israeli underworld. Now he sat, hunched, his eyes downcast, as the weight of his actions finally caught up with him. The turning point in the trial came when a former member of the Vineland Boys gang took the stand. The witness, a young man named Jamal, had been recruited by the Abergils to help distribute their ecstasy shipments in Los Angeles. His testimony provided a chilling insider's account of the family's operations, including the innovative smuggling techniques they employed to evade law enforcement. They'd hide the drugs in the most unexpected places, Jamal recounted, his voice trembling. Stuffed animals, hollowed-out books, even children's toys. Anything to get it past the customs agents. The jury listened in stunned silence as Jamal described the Abergil's ruthless treatment of those who crossed them. He recounted instances of beatings, kidnappings, and even murder, all carried out to maintain their grip on the lucrative drug trade. As the trial progressed, Yakov's stoic facade began to crack. During a particularly damning testimony, he was seen wiping away a stray tear, a rare display of vulnerability from the once formidable crime lord. The prosecutors seized on this moment, using it to paint a picture of a man whose ambition and greed had ultimately led to his downfall. They argued that the Abergil family's pursuit of power and wealth had come at a devastating cost, not just to their victims, but to their own humanity. In the end, the jury's verdict was swift and unforgiving. Yakov, Avi, and Mayor Abigail were all found guilty on a host of charges, with the judge handing down lengthy prison sentences. As the family was led away in handcuffs, the courtroom erupted in a mix of cheers and somber reflection. The Abergil Empire, once a formidable force in the Israeli underworld, had crumbled. The family's downfall served as a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked ambition and the corrupting influence of power. As the Abergils disappeared behind the prison walls, their legacy remained, a cautionary tale of the human cost of greed and violence. The thick steel bars of the prison cell did little to muffle the echoes of Yakov Abergil's anguished cries. Pacing back and forth, his calloused hands gripped the cold metal, his knuckles turning white as he grappled with the weight of his family's downfall. After decades of building a criminal empire that had struck fear into the hearts of their rivals, the Abergils had been reduced to this, a mere shadow of their former selves, confined behind bars. Yakov's mind raced, replaying the events that had led to this moment. The bombing in Tel Aviv, the subsequent investigation, and the relentless pursuit by law enforcement had all culminated in their undoing. He had always prided himself on his ability to stay one step ahead, but this time, the net had closed in too tightly. The Abergil family's reign had come to a crashing end, and Yakov was left to confront the consequences of his actions. As he sat on the edge of his bunk, Yakov's thoughts drifted to his brothers, Avi and Meir, who were also serving lengthy sentences. The three had been inseparable, united in their quest for power and wealth. But now, their bond seemed to have unraveled, each man grappling with the weight of their shared legacy. Avi, once the fiery enforcer, had grown silent and withdrawn, while Meir, The youngest struggled to come to terms with the realization that their empire had crumbled. Yakov's gaze shifted to the tattered newspaper clippings pinned to the wall, each one a painful reminder of the Abergil family's downfall. The headlines chronicled the aftermath of the bombing, the subsequent investigation, and the eventual arrests. The public had been outraged, their trust in law enforcement shaken by the revelation of the Abergil's extensive criminal network. As Yakov pored over the articles, he couldn't help but wonder if their legacy would be one of infamy or cautionary tale. The Abergil name had once struck fear into the hearts of their rivals, but now it was synonymous with the consequences of unchecked ambition and the corrupting influence of power. Beyond the prison walls, the ripple effects of the Abergil family's downfall were being felt across the criminal underworld. With the Abergils out of the picture, a power vacuum had emerged, and new players were jostling to fill the void. Yakov had heard whispers of rising crime syndicates, eager to capitalize on the Abergil's fall from grace. The thought of others benefiting from the Abergil legacy filled Yakov with a sense of bitter resentment. He had dedicated his life to building an empire, only to have it crumble around him. The decades of violence, betrayal, and ruthless decision-making had all been for naught. As he sat in his cell, Yakov couldn't help but wonder if it had all been worth it. In the quiet moments, Yakov's mind would wander to his family, the ones who had been caught in the crossfire of his ambition. His parents, now elderly and broken, had watched helplessly as their sons descended into the depths of the criminal world, and his own children, the future generations of the Abergil clan, were left to grapple with the tarnished legacy they had inherited. Yakov's heart ached for the family he had once fought so fiercely to protect. The very bonds that had once defined the Abergils had been shattered by the weight of their crimes. He longed for the days when they were united, driven by a shared vision of power and prosperity. Now, they were scattered, their unity replaced by a haunting sense of regret and loss. As the sun began to set outside his cell, casting long shadows across the floor, Yakov Abergil knew that the Abergil Empire had crumbled, never to be rebuilt. The legacy they had fought so hard to create had been reduced to a cautionary tale, a warning to those who would dare to follow in their footsteps. Yakov's once unbreakable spirit had been shattered, and he was left to confront the harsh realities of his choices. As we conclude this gripping tale of the Abergil family's rise and fall, we're reminded of the timeless lessons it imparts. Their story serves as a powerful cautionary tale, illustrating the destructive nature of unchecked ambition and the hollowness of ill-gotten gains. If you found this video intriguing and want to delve deeper into more fascinating true crime stories, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. By doing so, you'll never miss out on our latest uploads, each one meticulously crafted to bring you the most compelling narratives from the annals of criminal history. We put our heart and soul into creating these videos, and your support means the world to us. If you enjoyed this content, please consider sharing it with friends and family who might also find it captivating. Together, we can explore the complex world of true crime and the human stories behind the headlines. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video, where another riveting tale awaits.